Hi, and welcome to another wonderful episode of An Angel and Her Unicorn comic book reviews. I want to welcome all the heroes, villains, and innocent bystanders. I'm here today with a couple special guest stars. These are my beautiful assistants. This is...
Raylan the hyena.
And...
Kelly the dragon.
And I am Alan the unicorn. They worked really hard this week to read books and going to review a couple with me. I'm super excited to hear what they had to say. But I'm going to start off with my review first because I'm greedy and it's my show. I can do what I want. So, let me see. I think I'm going to do Fantastic Four. So, this is Fantastic Four number 4. And the writer is Dan Slott and the artist is Stefano Caselli and Nico Leon. In this book, they are... kind of in the middle of a story arc. The Fantastic Four are finally together. They're starting to come back to Earth and kind of get things to try to be back to normal. When they get back to Earth, the Fantastic Four realizes that the building that they've had for years, the Baxter Building, which do you know a lot about the Fantastic Four? Have you guys ever heard of the Fantastic Four?
Yes.
Okay. So you know all the characters?
Yeah.
Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Human Torch and the Thing were already on Earth, and Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman were off Earth with the kids, and they just recently got to get back together. So now the team's back on Earth. They live in. Do you know where they live?
The Fantastic Four building.
Close enough. The Baxter Building. But somebody's already bought the building, and so they are a superhero group also. And so they start to fight the Wreckers. When they fight them, the original Fantastic Four shows up and kind of stops them or helps them out. And hilarity ensues. Come to find out, they end up the publicist for the newer team that is already there and set this all up. So she paid all these villains to come and rob this jewelry store, and the team is like, why would you do that? That's like really just messed up because it's a publicity stunt. And they, Fantastic Four is like, yeah, we figured it out a long time ago. There's a reason why. How do you make signs already up? And, if you already had signs made, if they're a new team, then how would you know that? So they figure it out, but they allow them to stay in the Baxter Building. They say, we're not going to fight it. The Fantastic Four is not a place. It is a group. And so, therefore, we will let you have the building. So at the end of it, they end up moving in with Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters, which they are going to get married. I think that's going to be the next issue. Ooh. So I know it's always good to have a wedding. So with this issue, I thought it was okay. It was just kind of a throwaway story, kind of trying to get things back to normal. I feel like the oddity that they've had in the past couple books really kind of got lost into this one. So this one wasn't really a big thing. It's just kind of getting things back to normal, establishing where they're going to be. The art was fairly decent. I really liked it. I thought that it was pretty clean. They did really great with all the characters in it because there's a big cast that they're kind of shuffling around a little bit. So I thought it was pretty decent. All in all, I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5 unicorn horns, probably right in the middle. I'll obviously pick up the next issue to see where they're going to go with it, see what their premise is going to be to continue on. So all in all, not a bad book. So, you guys had homework, and you guys got to read books. What do you want to review first?
Can we do IronHeart?
Uncanny X-Men.
We'll let Raylan pick, okay? We'll go oldest to youngest.
Okay.
So, Uncanny X-Men?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So do you remember the writer or the artist in the Uncanny X-Men?
No.
I forgot to study that.
It's okay. That's why I'm pulling it up. So why don't you go ahead while I'm pulling it up? Why don't you go ahead and tell me what the book was about?
It was
First, have you read Uncanny X-Men before?
Not before. This was my first time reading it.
Reading X-Men period or just reading the Uncanny?
X-Men period.
Okay, so you're fairly new to this then, huh?
Yeah.
That's
I've seen the movies, but not the comics.
But not the comic books?
I've seen every movie except Deadpool.
Got it. Seen every movie except Deadpool?
Yeah.
All right. So, let's see if we can get this pulled up. And the writers are going to be, there's 3 different writers, which they've been doing the series. I've been reading it since the beginning. So this is number 3.
Yeah.
And the writers are going to be Matthew Rosenberg, Kelly Thompson, and Ed Brinson. And the artist in this particular issue is Yildiray Sinanar, which I'm sure I'm totally butchering that, but it's a really complex name. If I am, I'm so sorry. So go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what the book's about?
Well, the book's about the X-Men, and since I started on book 3, I don't know what happened before, but I do know that it started with them fighting these dinosaurs, and they're all fighting the dinosaurs.
So they've got one team that they're fighting the dinosaurs. Which, did you have a favorite character in this book?
Oh, in this one, I really liked Polaris.
Polaris is pretty cool. Did you have a favorite character?
I really liked X-23.
I was the same way. I was thinking X-23. She's kind of funny though. She's kind of cool. I like Polaris I love her costuming and her just her powers in general are always fun. Yeah. So go ahead. So they're fighting. One team is kind of fighting the dinosaurs.
Yeah, and then the other half of them are fighting Multiple Man because he is, for some reason, his mind is going all crazy, and so like half of them are fighting the dinosaurs, some are fighting the Multiple Man copies.
Right. So in the past issues, they've actually brought Multiple Man where they kind of making him out to be more of a future thing. So he's got like a future vision and he's having some issues. And so this is kind of like a little bit of a continuation, and they kind of explain why that is, which we find out later why that is. Did you catch on to that?
Yes.
So.
And then back at the mansion, you have Pixie Glob. I hope I said that.
Yeah.
And then you got Armor and Rockslide.
Yep.
And they're all at the mansion, and then all of a sudden Legion shows up, and
which he looks all fancy. He looks like he's all
yes.
Yeah.
And Legion looks all fancy, and Armor really doesn't want him in the mansion, but she finally says, "Fine, you can come in."
Mm-hmm. And then so the other team of the X-Men are coming. They're still trying to finish fighting Multiple Man.
Yeah, and then Legion all of a sudden, since he has that multiple personality issue, he starts going to his crazy side and is starting to become his weird Legion.
So Legion, have you seen Legion as a character, or have you read about him?
I know, isn't he Charles Xavier's son?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's Charles Xavier's son. He's an Omega level mutant. He has mind powers, and he has multiple personality disorders, which kind of makes him very dangerous.
So Raylan likes to read the kind of power sets and their profiles online, which I love and I think I find fascinating. As a person that's read the book for many, many years, it's definitely a bit more jaded. I know all the history just because I've read all of it. But with Raylan and Kelly, they both kind of researched it, and Raylan's kind of the walking encyclopedia when it comes to some of the mutants. And Kelly just likes to read just so she can be brushed up on her skills and be on TV.
Hey!
So with this, Legion has all the multiple personalities, and he's actually shoved all of his personalities into different bodies.
With Multiple Man.
Right.
He took a piece of every single personality and put them in Multiple Man, so
which gave all the multiple people. Which is
what one of his personalities, and so that's why he's going all crazy.
Right, and so he's kind of calm in this part where he's kind of put together, and he's kind of he's kind of got it together, which normally he doesn't. And so with this, then they move on. So they get to where they're still fighting all the Multiple Men.
Yes. And Jean Grey and Psylocke use their powers together to try to get into his mind and see what's going on. They finally do. But then back at the mansion, Legion actually becomes Legion.
Right, the old Legion.
Isn't his name Billy?
I'm not for sure on that one. I think it's David.
David.
Mm-hmm.
David, yeah, it's David.
But I may be wrong on that one too.
Yeah, anyways.
I'm more of a big picture guy. I don't have all the specifics like you do. After you cram so many years of stuff in your head, you just don't have I don't have the capacity to remember half the stuff that I read.
But yeah, he actually becomes the Legion
Like
part.
the kind of crazy one that everybody knows.
The crazy one.
Right.
And he snaps and the mutants start fighting him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the X-Men get into this building that Polaris opens, and they find the original multiple man
Jamie,
and he's all tied up and beaten and chained, and so they get him and bring him back, and then Beast comes in, and and then they all meet up together, and they start to try to fight Legion.
Because they realize, because they realize that that multiple man has been used, and so they all go back to the X Mansion and realize they've been distracting.
Yeah, and also they thought he was dead for some reason, but he's not, and so they start trying to fight David, but he keeps trying to say he was trying to save him because Angel, Omega Red, Magneto, and Blob come. And they're all the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse.
They used to be, but they're not. Now they're like the 4 horsemen of like they call it something else, like the horsemen of peace.
Yeah, they were the 4 horsemen of that, but now they're the 4 horsemen of peace.
Right.
And they're all here to try to end all wars, and so their powers are like stronger and enhanced and stuff. And then at the end
of the book, which, by the way, spoilers,
it makes the whole mansion explode, and it says
whole mansion blown up.
Yeah, and it says gone. To be continued.
Just gone. So, what was your favorite part about this book? Or did you have a favorite part? Did you like it or did you not like it?
I like when they showed Legion and stuff, and how he ends up showing them that he was right and that it really was.
So did you like it?
Yes, I liked it.
Yeah? What about you, Kelly?
I really liked the story and how it was set up, and the pictures were beautiful.
Okay. So you liked the art?
I did too.
Did you think the art fit the book really well?
Yes.
So now, in the past, they've actually, the first 3, so they've bringing these out weekly. Uncanny X-Men, I think for the first 10 weeks, is supposed to be weekly, and so they've been doing different artists each week. Out of all 3 artists, I feel like this is probably the weakest of the artists, but it's still pretty good. It really works well with the book.
We haven't seen it.
Right. And so that's why I was curious to see your opinion. I personally didn't think it was bad. It just was, I've seen the other artists, and I think this one was, out of the 3, this one is definitely a little bit of a different artist that wasn't my style, that wasn't my favor. But did you have a favorite part that you liked?
I really did like how at like kind of the beginning when Legion was turning into like actual Legion, how it just shows him pushing everybody back and how he
kind of knocks everybody away.
Yeah, and some of them are thrown to the back, did a flip.
Yeah, they all tried to stop him.
Yeah.
I thought it was a neat reveal that they did do the different powers in Multiple Man, because they had talked about it in the other issues, but they hadn't explained why he was all of a sudden had all these different powers, which it took me a while to figure out. I figured it out last week after the big reveal, but I was really excited to see if it was right, because you never know if you're right or not.
Mm-hmm.
So art you liked, the story was good. So a rating out of 5 unicorn horns, 1 being the worst unicorn horns and 5 being the best unicorn horns, what would you give it?
I would give it around a 3.
A 3? So middle of the road?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
4.
4? I'm with you. I'd probably give it a 4, maybe a 5, just because I'm a huge X-Men fan. So.
Yeah, 4 or 5, definitely.
No.
Probably a 5 because it was my favorite out of all of them.
Right.
So I would probably have to say a 5 because it was my favorite out of all of them.
Out of the 3 you read?
Yes.
Awesome. So now, since you are kind of newer to this, do you think it was easy for you to jump into this book? Or do you think if you had read the other issues, you think it would have been easier to understand?
It was actually quite easy to understand.
Kind of jump in?
The only confusing part is when they said they thought Legion was dead.
Okay.
That was the only.
Because you didn't know the back history on that one.
No,
Awesome.
but it was actually really. I enjoyed it. I caught on.
Still caught on? What about you? Did you have a harder time?
I really was able to fairly easily jump into it. The only really part that confused me was when they thought that Legion was dead.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't know why there were dinosaurs or whatever, but where the
that
dinosaurs
well, then that
came
would have been
from.
like the past 2 issues. It would have been really useful, obviously, to have those in your back pocket if you would have seen that. So I'm gonna go back to one of my reviews. Let's see. I'm gonna see. There was one on here that I had read earlier, and I can't remember if it was a newer book or not, but I thought it was really, really good. I think it was older. Yeah, it was an older book. So we're going to skip that since that wasn't this week, and we'll just stick to the ones that I had this week. So I'm going to go with, let's do Silencer. So we'll do a DC book. So it's Silencer number 11. I've been keeping up with this one for quite a while. The story, or the writers this time were Jack Herbert and Dan Abnett. And then the breakdowns was Tom Derenick, and Mike Spicer was the colors. So with this book, I really want this to be good, and it was so good when it first started, but it's kind of starting to drop off. So she was kind of one of the characters that they brought in, and they did like this big event, and then they brought in all these other side characters that hadn't been in the DC universe before, and they kind of brought them in. And so when they did this, this is one of the characters. She's kind of an assassin. She works with Talia al Ghul, and she's kind of like her number 1 lieutenant. And but it's slowly gotten away from some of that stuff. They kind of brought in back to where it started, but I feel like now that it's issue number 11, it should have been a little bit more resolved than what it is. So it was an okay issue. It's basically all the generals that Talia al Ghul had been getting together. They all came into this big event. They reveal that Talia is back because she got killed in a couple books ago, or her body was dead, so they were trying to stop her from being reborn. Because the Silencer, she doesn't want her to come back because she wants to be free. She wants to have her family. She wants to be free. And it's just, with Talia's there, then she's not going to be able to do what she wants. So, it was an okay read. I just feel like it's a little bit, it should have been resolved a long time ago. But it's still not too bad. If you are not reading this, this is kind of a fun book to read. Maybe to start with the beginning. But as far as this issue, it's just okay. I feel like I've kind of lost some of the excitement for it, and so I'm ready for it to kind of continue on to a new direction or do something different. But I really like the characters, so I'm holding on hope. Mm-hmm. And the art was pretty good. It wasn't probably my favorite out of the whole entire series, but it was still really neat. They had some really great, like, one panel shots of Talia and this really awesome outfit. Some really great group shots of all the people that she's fighting against, and at the end, they kind of reveal that she's brought all the people back together. So she created this kind of internal conflict with her gang to kind of trim the fat. Now that the fat's all gone, she's going to start back over again, and everybody's together again. Except for the Silencer, who the Silencer is ready to, I think she's going to try to kill her. Because she said, at the very end, she goes, there's always one, isn't there? So she's talking about Silencer being the one person that's not going to be on board with everything, so... it's okay book. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns, probably middle of the road. Not too bad. Continuation of the series. It's okay.
So in the beginning of this series, it was kind of a really good book. Like,
yeah.
Five unicorn horns, but then as the series kept on getting along, it kind of dropped down. Like, they were kind of not.
They're just not like doing it. They're just not doing anything with the character. I feel like it's still the same story. It's like constantly doing the same thing over and over again, and I feel like they should have continued, either ended it or completely let it go and then brought it back later. They tend to drag things on, so it's kind of paces things a little bit differently. So all right, so we'll let Kelly do the next one. She'll go through So what would you like to pick?
I would love to pick IronHeart.
IronHeart. I'm curious to see what you guys thought about this one. So IronHeart, let's see. The writer is going to be Ewing. Say again. Kevin Harley. Yeah, you can do that one. Mm-hmm. Kevin Labranda and Luciano Vecchio. This is why I hate pronunciations of names. I feel like they should come with a pronunciation guide because I feel horrible. Like, I hate butchering your name. I'm so sorry. Because you're actually really good. So, okay. So, Kelly, tell me what is this book about?
This book is about a girl who her parents got divorced at the very beginning, and it was kind of going through her story and what happened. And at the very beginning of the book, it shows IronHeart, the main girl. She comes into her lab, and there's like this guy who he has like all these people in her lab, and she's so confused. Like, why are you in my lab with?
It's almost like somebody invaded her space.
Yes.
Yeah. So come to find out, who is he? He's kind of like the head of the school. So she's at school. Mm-hmm. So they gave her this lab at school, and so he is kind of the head of the school, and he's showing these people around because they're part of the UN, and they're gonna try to do good. So they're wanting to see these labs and see what she's up to.
And the next page, it shows her talking to this guy, and she shows him like these goggles that like show like vision, like skin pores,
microscopic stuff.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then she shows him this suit and then an arm blaster. Mm-hmm. And then she kind of sits down and let a few people talk to her about stuff. And then I guess on the very next page, what confused me was there was a gun, and it just started shooting off for some reason. And then the head guy, he starts screaming at her for the safety precautions and all this stuff but like, I don't know what happened, basically, is what she's saying. I don't know what happened or something wrong with the program. And then after everybody leaves, she puts on these glasses.
The microscopic ones. Yes.
And then her mom and her stepdad
I think these are actually her friends. I think these are actually friends of hers that they came in to try to help her get out of the lab.
But I personally thought they were her parents.
No, they're about her age.
It is. I may be wrong because I don't read this. I haven't read this character for a long time. But I think it is her friend in school.
It's not their parents.
But they were trying to get her to go to lunch, but she didn't want to. And so the very next page is something's going on at the lab, right, Raylan?
It's this other part. It's this other part of the school.
It's a different part of the school,
right?
And
like the force field comes up,
and like all
she's
of
not even in the school though.
It's okay.
And she's working on this working on the arm, I think.
Yeah.
And then on her monitor, it shows up something's like in trouble, the other part of the school. And then the people who were in her lab is trapped in a room with a bad guy who is manipulating sound waves using a weapon. Mm-hmm. And then she uses like her goggles to get like all of this information. If you read like all the actual panels in that section. And then she's kind of new at it, so she's like at the next page she's kind of being like weird about it. And then they come in and then they start fighting about it.
So she finally breaks into the force field and tries to rescue them.
And then they're fighting, and she punches up, and I guess there's a water tank or something that has water, and she busts it with like a gun or something like Iron Man has, and the water comes in, and she tells all of them to take off their earplugs.
So the one thing's that earlier they had talked about having a universal translator around their neck. Mm-hmm. The universal translator, so that they could hear each other's languages. And so that's what she accesses in there. She uses that technology to help stop the bad guy, because that's what the bad guy's using to control them with. So she ends up using the water, and it helps them kind of get out of that situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they keep on fighting, and then all these people come out, and then there's like these guards that come in, and then like she starts glowing in the dark, and then they capture him, and then the guy gives her a disc that has like all these like symbols on it, and then she's dreaming about when she was younger and her dad was still alive, and her friend.
Mm-hmm. So then her friend calls her.
Mm-hmm. And they're talking.
They talk forever.
Yes.
And they kind of geek out.
Yes.
Huge nerds.
Yes. And keep on talking, and then she gets mad at him about something. I forgot what.
She kind of gets mad because her mom told him to call her.
Yes.
She finds out that he didn't just call her just because, he called her because her mom
told.
Right. So she was kind of like, my mom's, why is my mom telling you this, and all this stuff. And then he's like, I did kind of want to talk to you. And so they kind of bond over
and keep on talking for years.
I don't think it's quite that long, though.
Yeah, but then the conversation is finally over, and then she glanced at her suit, and then I guess it projects a picture of her dead friend, and she's like, Natalie?
It's her sister.
It's her sister, apparently. I thought it was her friend.
It's her friend.
Oh, her friend, yeah, because it was the friend that got shot.
Because
she's trying to, right?
And
she's trying to make
parents didn't get divorced. Her dad got shot too.
Right, her dad died, and
her friend died.
Right, but it was her stepdad
that killed her.
That got killed. Her dad died. She had a stepfather, and her stepfather and her friend got killed together.
He shot her friend. He killed her friend.
I don't think. I think they were shot together, but I may be wrong. I'd have to reread it again. But then the AI that she's trying to make is she ends up making it by accident, and it's her friend. So
and then at the very bottom of that big picture, it says to be continued.
So I'm curious to see. So after I read all these with you guys, because obviously I wanted to be able to know what we were talking about. How did you feel about this book? Did you feel like this book was? Did you understand it really well?
Yes, but some of the parts I kind of got confused if it was her parents or her friends, sibling or friend.
Well, I'm glad that was the only thing you got confused about. What did you think?
It was pretty simple and straightforward. I did not get any confused.
I completely disagree with that. I was so confused half the time. They use so much jargon and like...
It's just you guys.
It's just us. It may be. But I really do feel like there was a lot of words it was very wordy and a lot of explanation. Like when she was breaking into the Harvard University, when she was breaking into there, like they used a lot of jargon in that to try to explain what she was doing and stuff like that. So I felt like it was really kind of almost heavy with a lot of the dialogue. So you didn't feel that way? You understood a lot of it?
No. I understood a lot of it.
Good.
Actually, I understood almost the whole book.
So now, do you think this is something that you would read again? Like, would you read issue 2?
Yeah.
Were you intrigued by it?
Yeah.
What about you?
I loved it. It was my favorite out of the 3.
Huh?
I really want to read. I can't wait for the second issue.
So, what about the art?
I thought it was really cool how they did everything, especially in her suit, how they did the goggles, like how they made it so it looks so real.
It was really neat. Like I think her armor is super sleek.
Yeah.
I love the color scheme. I think the color scheme is really pretty. I love all the little highlights. What do you think, Raylan?
I love the armor. I like the little heart.
Yeah, I think it's funny. The IronHeart. That's cute. And then, what did you think of the villain?
The villain was really cool too.
Me too. I liked him.
And so, the art was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of rating would you give it?
Oh, 5 unicorn horns for sure.
4? I would give it probably a 4. I enjoyed it, but I definitely think it was...
I'm very yawny today.
Maybe we should call you Raylan Yanni instead of Raylan Hyena. Because aren't hyenas supposed to laugh? They haven't laughed once. So I think it was pretty good. Like, I think it was a good first issue. I do feel like maybe they could have used a little bit less explanation about things and maybe use that to further some of the side story a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think it was too bad. So, yeah. Not a bad read. I thought that was a pretty good pick. I was glad we got to read that one together. All right, so I'll do one more, and then you guys do one more, and then we will be done with this. So I'm going to go with Heroes in Crisis. This has gotten really intense. So Heroes in Crisis is kind of like their big event that DC is doing. This is number 3. Tom King is a huge... Jenny is a huge Tom King fan. This is one of her favorite books, or was one of her favorite books. And Weeks is the one that's doing the art. Also, Clayman is doing part of it too. So they kind of did a couple different artists on this particular book. So in this issue, they're still doing like a lot of the 9-panel introductions, which really kind of make the book have that kind of interesting flow. But they do the 9-panel where it's the particular characters. They talk about the Flash and what their kind of therapy is doing. So it goes into some of the other Laguna Boy's therapy. Laguna Boy's fear. He was afraid of being hit or hurt again because he got hurt before. And Flash's kind of therapy was him losing his family or being away from his family. So it goes into a little bit more of why they're there at Sanctuary, and it reveals that Booster Gold was trying to figure out what is his problem. Well, why is he in Sanctuary? Because Sanctuary is kind of like a therapy place. It's kind of their place to where they can talk about their problems and have their problems acted out. And so then it goes into more of like how they died. They still haven't revealed who the killer is. You still don't know whether it's Harley or Booster Gold is the killer, or if there's a completely different person. And then at the end, it kind of reveals some extra characters and like how long they'd been there. But they haven't revealed if they're dead or if they're alive or what had happened to them quite yet. So there's a couple characters in there that they kind of bring in. So it is a very...
I was reading the character.
So they had the Commander Steel. He died in the first issue. Gunfire, you really don't know. You find him on the ground. Tattooed Man. Gnark, you don't really know. Red Devil, he's on the ground. Protector, they really don't show what happens to him. Poison Ivy is dead, and so is Solstice, Solstice you don't know, and Nemesis you don't know. So they bring in some more characters, but you're not quite sure where they're at in the book, or what has happened to them. So it's kind of interesting. They kind of give you that little bit of a something to hold on to, something new. So it's a pretty good book. This series so far, this is number 3 out of 9, has been really good. I've really enjoyed the art is amazing. The story is really interesting. Obviously, I feel like this is more of a filler. There's not really a lot of stuff that goes on in this, but it is kind of interesting to see why the people were there at Sanctuary. So I really enjoyed it. So I would definitely give it a higher rating. I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5 unicorn horns because I am really enjoying the series and the art was really tight and worked well with the book. And so if you're not reading it, it's a really good book. I think it would be a fun one. It's definitely a superhero book though. If you're not a superhero fan, you may not find it as interesting, but Tom King has a way of writing that is actually still really almost realistic or enjoyable to read. So even if you're not a huge superhero fan, I still think it is a pretty good book. All right, last one for you guys, which after reading, I may have chose poorly. It had a lot of jokes and innuendo that I probably was a little bit more adult than should have been. But still. So the other book, this one was Old Lady Harley, number 2. So in this book.
Wait, is this where it's gonna start here? What about the
see if you can
art?
see the artist and the writer.
Oh, there it is.
That's for that book. That's for Justice League. So let's. Right.
There's a name, but I don't think.
Yeah, it's not the full name, so we'll look for the full name.
And
So why don't you just start saying what it is, and I'll look for the name.
So
start talking about that.
It starts at the beginning, where it starts at this cat Grant girl talking on the news.
Yep.
And about how the zombie people.
So the writer is Frank Terry, and the artist is Anaki Miranda. So that's an interesting name. I like that name. So keep going. Yeah. So there's newscasters, and they're kind of talking about the zombies.
The zombies and how they're not like bad or something, but like how they're helping and stuff.
They're kind of invaded Canada. It's just kind of like a little,
Canada, and there's this huge wall it brought in between America and Canada, and it shows Power Girl, which that's Power Girl, right? And she's like older, and she's getting her arm gnawed on by a zombie.
Which is the ambassador for Canada.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think they said Wayne Gretzky or something, which is like a famous hockey player.
And then it shows this commercial
right
for the Monster Hurler 3000,
which I thought was pretty funny.
And it has less backfire of eating the human's face, and now it can eat the annoying neighbor's cat, and now you can get it in for women too. And then it goes back in time, and it's Harley
kind of
talking
a flashback
about Harley, how her and Joker, when they were on as a team together, and she thought he was good for her or whatever, and he was like he was gonna listen to her and not gonna kill people or whatever, but that ended up backfiring.
Yes, he ends up killing people anyways,
and betraying her. And then it takes place in Batman's Batcave. But
it kind of shoots to the future, which in this book their future is nowadays, or the now time.
Yeah, and so right now it's the present Harley and what's his name?
It's something with Tool, like Master Tool or something. Red Tool.
Yeah. And they see Bruce, or at least they think it's Bruce, and so they're talking.
Look at the camera.
And so they're talking, and Red Tool tries to punch Batman, but it's just a hologram robot type thing.
Which I think was kind of interesting.
And then it picks up Harley and all that, and they start getting freaked out. And so then they go into this room, and it's Bruce, and it's Wayne, and it's Batman, except he turned himself into this creepy, weird machine.
Yeah.
And
it's all hooked up to all these wires.
And all that. And so they start freaking out, and then they see all the different suits and all the creepy stuff.
100 robots and there's
all
solid
the different
holograms.
Suits.
Yeah.
And then Harley spots the Nightwing suit, and she says to what happened to Nightwing and all that, and then she mentioned how it's her ex-husband.
Which, in the book, she ends up having 80 million ex-husbands.
I know, because
she's married to everybody.
Because Red Tool keeps saying,
yeah,
you have literally married. Is there anybody you haven't married? And all that. And
because she married what? She married
Catwoman, Poison Ivy, Joker.
She married a bunch of people.
Yeah, too many. And so all of that, and then she starts talking about about the funeral and about how all this happened, and when he became a robot, now that all his human feelings are gone, so he doesn't feel anything, and then now the robots protected the city, and now Gotham City is completely crime free, and it's like perfect.
But it's not. It's just everything's a crime. So even littering's a crime, because even Red Tool talks about like, oh, you know, I would litter, but I'd be afraid it'd be a crime, and so they make that big joke. So then they go to find Catwoman, because she was there when Joker died, because they think Joker's alive, and Batman also says no, because if anyone would know, it would be me. Right.
So they get to Arkham Asylum, which is now Arkham, the nursing home, basically. And they see Aggie.
Which he was in the other... all these... did you read the original series?
No.
Okay. So Aggie was in the original series, and so was the Red Tool was in the original series. All of them were kind of... So they bring them all back from the original.
And so it shows Aggie and all of them, and Aggie's pushing Egghead in a wheelchair, and...
Because Aggie is kind of the nurse of everybody, so... And so
Egghead still thinks it's Easter and he's super crazy and all that. And so then they go down the hall and they see everybody in the room. And there's Clayface, Toyman, and
Riddler, all of them.
Captain Cold accidentally eats him because he thought it was Jell-O. Harley is weirded out because no one has clothes on. She sees Riddler say, "Riddle me this, where are my pants?" And then she sees that crazy guy. Who is that color guy?
That it looks like, I think that's Kite Man.
Yeah, Kite Man. Kite
Yeah.
Man. And then she sees King Tut with no clothes at all except a thing in front of him. And then she... Go ahead. Oh, and then she sees Catwoman, and so she tries to talk to her, but she won't answer because she's like old and she like doesn't understand, and she can't hear, and so she's all confused. Well, then Killer Croc comes over, and he talks about when they're on like their 9 life. It's kind of that's how they are, and then he starts talking to Harley about how's my favorite ex and all that, and he asks her, "Do you think you'll ever marry me?" And she was like, "No, I'd rather marry the crazy King Tut guy." And so then he figures out how to talk for Catwoman, and he tells what happened, and so
they have to go back to Gotham. So they find a way back to Gotham
and go back in time.
Or not back in time, they just kind of do a flashback and talk about that they have to go.
And so they get ready and they go in the teleporter. And Red Tool gets nervous because it's going to mess up his sarcophagus. And so
his sarcophagus is not a... Yes.
And so... And so Eggy says he'll miss everyone except Red Tool because he doesn't really
they don't like them. Yep.
Him. And so then they teleport and go back, and then these Joker henchmen see that they're going back, so they use their little machine
to scramble the teleporter
and to go back with them to Las Vegas.
Well, they go back to Las Vegas, but then it also scrambles the teleporter so that the team Catwoman and them don't go back to Vegas.
Oh. So it affected them.
Right.
Okay.
So they end up being in where they end up being.
So they don't end up going to Las Vegas.
Right.
They end up going. Killer Croc realizes they're not in Las Vegas. They're in Bloodhaven,
which is where
all the bad guys live.
All the really crazy people are
really
stuck.
Crazy people.
Because they talk about earlier in the book about how all the crazy people are in Bloodhaven. So now they're all kind of gathered around, getting ready to be in a big fight. With the senile Catwoman.
Yes. And so that is how that one ended.
So, did you like this book? I know you are a
Yes.
huge Harley fan.
Yes,
Did
I
you-
liked it.
Did you find it funny, or did you think it was more serious?
Harley was quite funny in it. I liked
Yes.
Harley.
I actually think like Red Tool and the other characters were funnier than Harley in this book.
I did realize Red Tool was probably
Yeah.
the funniest. He was funnier than Harley, but I really liked Harley in this one. I liked her old lady outfit, how she just had those little hairs instead of her pigtails now.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you have a favorite character?
Mine was definitely the Harley, of course.
Mine had to be Catwoman. She was hysterical.
I think I have to say the cast of the nursing home was pretty funny. I liked all
Yeah.
the Riddler not having pants and King
King
Tut walking around
Tut.
with just like a underwear on.
Like
So-
It wasn't
square.
even underwear. It was like a piece of hologram
Yeah.
thing in front.
And so, did you think you understood it pretty well?
Yes.
It's a pretty easy premise. I think it's pretty straightforward. Kind of a fun little book. I really enjoyed it. What did you guys think about the art?
I thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they
That's
did.
good.
I think it really fits the book. It's kind
It
of
really
like a
does.
apocalyptic world where
And
everybody
you
kind of looks
got-
like kind of
And the
sketchy.
outfit looks matching.
Yeah. They did really good with kind of aging all the characters. Power Girl at the front, she looked pretty old. That was pretty
And
funny.
she's just like, why?
Yeah.
And then you got him with
Mr. Freeze.
with his little things
With
and
his helmet on, yeah.
and oxygen, and then you got
Yeah.
Clayface, who's still Clayface, but
he's
he's
all
got
crunchy, yeah.
glasses and all that. And Captain Cold eats part of
So,
him. and
what
'cause
would
he
you?
thought
What
it
kind
was
of
big.
rating would you give this?
I would definitely give it a 5.
5?
I would give it about 4.
Yeah, I'd probably say
And then
I
you
would
got
probably give
Toy
4.
Man,
Yep.
old Toy Man.
I would probably give it a 4 out of 5. It was pretty funny. I really enjoyed it. I'm not a huge Harley fan. She's an okay character for me, but I thought this book was pretty funny. And I read the original series, so I thought, it was kind of neat to see how the characters, they kind of brought them in and made them older. So, all right. Wow, I think that was our last book, wasn't it?
Yes.
Awesome. So, if you get a chance, tell us what you thought about the books that we reviewed today. I'm going to do my pull list really quick, and then we'll end the show, okay? So, the rest of my pull list, I had Drowned Earth, and it was the final chapter of this series. It's okay. I was ready for the series to be over about 2 issues ago, so I'm glad it's finally over. I'd probably give it a 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. I would actually probably give it a 3 out of 5 because the art was really amazing. I really liked the artists that were in it, so they were really good. Justice League Odyssey, I think I'm going to have to drop this book. It's not fun. I'd 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. If you're a Cyborg or Starfire fan, you may like this book. Or the Green Lantern, it has Azrael in it. That is, he's kind of a weird character. Not my cup of tea. I think I'm going to have to just give this one up just before I become embittered with the world. So, 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. Wonder Woman, it was started off it was doing so good. They were doing some really interesting stories and kind of fun things with her, with the Witching Hour, and then the Amazons before that. But then they kind of went to this weird thing. The art's not that great. I don't know. I'm really worried about it. It's kind of going downhill again, unfortunately. So 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. Uncanny X-Men we already did. Batgirl, I thought it was the ending of the arc about her fighting Grotesque and dealing with saving her father, and her implant was malfunctioning. I really like the art in it, so probably 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. I'm glad she's back into a decent costume. Other than that purple and yellow, it was horrible.
I like the black better with the yellow.
Yeah, the black and yellow was my favorite. This one's pretty cool, though. She's got like a little backpack. She's got a little backpack on the back. She's got a really cool bat symbol belt. She's got a cool bat symbol on the front. I like her hair out.
My favorite Batgirl outfit is probably the one from the type of outfit she wore in the animated series from the 90s.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
That was my favorite character. All of my favorite characters' outfits were
From the
there.
90s cartoon?
Yeah.
That was a good
Like
cartoon.
Harley, and it was
Well, that's where she originally came from. Harley was
Yeah.
originally, that was originally her. opening debut was from the comic or cartoon.
Yeah. I loved her classic outfit, Poison Ivy's outfit.
Yeah.
And then like how they had that thing with live wire in it. I loved the live wire's outfit.
They definitely brought in a lot of people from that.
Volcana was in the Superman version. Batgirl, Supergirl. It was really good.
I don't disagree.
I loved the animated series version.
I'm noticing. I liked it too. It was a really good series. So, if you agree with our comments, or if you don't agree, let us know why. If there's something that we're reading that you might suggest, whether it be for them or for me, we would love to hear from that. So, like, comment, and share if you can. Until next week, we hope your pull list is going to be full. So, together, bye.
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 Bye.